When most people picture haunted houses, they picture creepy old buildings filled with cobwebs and shadows. What they don't usually picture are legendary stand-up comedians, audiences who can't stop laughing, and Pauly Shore. But that changes right now, because today we're taking a look at the haunting of the Comedy Store. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other supernatural hotspots you'd like to hear about. Okay, hope you're ready to be scared silly, because here we go. For those who are unaware, the Comedy Store is arguably the greatest and most culturally significant comedy venue in the history of the United States, maybe even the world. Founded by comedians Sammy Shore and Rudy DeLuca, it opened in April of 1972. And if the name Sammy Shore doesn't ring a bell, that's okay. But, fun fact, he's the father of everyone's favorite 1990s stoner comedian extraordinaire, Pauly Shore. That's right, the Weasel himself. And Pauly's mother, Mitzi Shore, was the notorious kingmaker of the Los Angeles comedy scene for just about her whole life. Under Mitzi's guidance, the Comedy Store served as a breeding ground for some of the most important and beloved comedians of all time. It's hard to put into context just how important the venue was and is, but since we decided to make this video, we'll give it a shot. In no particular order, a small selection of people who got their start there include Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, Chevy Chase, Jerry Seinfeld, Jim Carrey, Roseanne Barr, Jay Leno, David Letterman, Andy Kaufman, Gary Shandling, Michael Keaton, Whoopi Goldberg, and just about every other person who ever picked up a microphone to unload their anxieties onto an audience in a humorous manner. Think of it as the Super Bowl of comedians. Every night, all night. As if having the gold standard of comedy pedigree wasn't enough, the Comedy Store is also one of the spookiest buildings in Hollywood, which is to say, it's haunted, and not just by aspiring comedians, by actual ghosts, at least according to its employees. True, most of these employees are themselves aspiring comedians, but we're pretty sure they're being serious. The extent and impressiveness of the paranormal phenomena have varied throughout the years, but what's consistent is their frequency. Even today, people claim the Comedy Store is home to some kind of phantasmagoric entity and a handful of ghosts from seemingly the distant past. Waitresses at the Comedy Store have claimed they would set up tables, leave, and return to find them completely ruined, as if some vengeful spirit was trying to undo all the work they had done, or was unsuccessfully practicing that trick where you pull the tablecloth out from all the place settings without disturbing them. And comedian Joey Gaynor, who worked as a doorman at the Comedy Store when he was coming up, often recounts tales of blowing out candles only to see them relight before his very eyes. This suggests whatever spirit is haunting the venue really doesn't like sitting in the dark, at least not in the company of Joey Gaynor. Another time, he found a bunch of chairs piled up on top of each other in the middle of the aisle. Would a living person ever stack chairs and just leave them in the middle of an aisle? Okay, maybe, but Gaynor says he was alone at the time, and assuming he's not a blackout drunk who stacked the chairs himself and then forgot, that's pretty eerie. And comedian Blake Clark, who also worked as a doorman at the venue, claims he saw a bar stool spin around and then move 20 feet under its own power, raising the possibility that the ghosts just like messing with doormen. Buttressing that theory is the fact that Clark also claims he often heard someone banging on the piano keys, even when there was no one around. Then there was the time comedy legend Sam Kinison called out the ghosts from the stage, only to have the lights go dark on him. Okay, it's not as scary as anything in The Shining, or The Conjuring, or even Casper, but it's still pretty weird. Michael Becker, vice president of the Comedy Store, never believed in the ghost stories because they came from overly imaginative, creative types. That all changed when he saw a phantom there in broad daylight. According to Becker, he was standing outside of his office when he was approached by a man wearing a tweed jacket, like the kind worn in the 1940s. The man casually walked by him and entered Becker's office without acknowledging him, which is, just rude. So Becker followed the man in, only to find the room empty. Could this story be fabricated to keep the myth going? Possibly. But Becker isn't one of those overly imaginative, creative types he hates so much. He's one of those underly imaginative business types. So, you be the judge. If you believe the stories, the question becomes, who are these ghosts? The obvious answer is that they're all the comics who have died on stage over the years, but we have some other guesses. You see, way back in the 40s and 50s, before the building was the Comedy Store, it was a popular mob-run nightclub named Ciro's. Loud music, smoke-filled interiors, free-flowing booze, you know the vibe. The place was known primarily for gambling and bootlegging, and stars like Tyrone Power, Betty Davis, and Lucille Ball used to hang there regularly. Even notorious LA mob boss Mickey Cohen was a regular. Cohen, in case you don't know, was one of the most famous gangsters of his day, a former boxer and immigrant from Ukraine. He rose from syndicate bodyguard to West Coast crime kingpin and was as ingenious as he was brutal. He was eventually caught, sent to Alcatraz, and holds the interesting distinction of being the only prisoner to ever be transferred out of the Rock, although we imagine he would have stayed if he knew Sean Connery and Nick Cage would be showing up. How does this relate to the ghosts? Well, allegedly, Cohen conducted all kinds of mob business at the venue, and even had a killing and torture room in the basement. Yes, that's unusual, but there's not always space for a killing and torture room at ground level, so sometimes you have to make do. Anyway, many assume that the Comedy Store's ghosts are the unfortunate souls the Mixter killed down there. There was also supposedly an illegal abortion clinic in the basement at some point, which is either an indictment of the mob's lack of prophylactics or the abhorrent healthcare situation in the 40s. Once again, you be the judge. Due to the fact they're always dressed in retro clothing, the aforementioned Michael Becker believes the other ghosts that haunt the venue are also from the Mickey Cohen era. What other ghosts, you ask? Well, for starters, there's Gus, a ghost who acts like a security guard. He dresses in 1940s clothing and has been seen inspecting the crowd and keeping an eye on the stage, which depressingly suggests we'll all still be working after we die. Then there's another ghost who is a man dressed in a World War II bomber jacket. He's often seen going in and out of the stage doors or drinking quietly in the back of the venue, suggesting that death isn't an impediment to running up a bar tab. Hey, maybe that's why the security guard ghost is still clocking in. In any case, most reports hold that these ghosts aren't dangerous, except whatever is in the basement. No, the killing and torture room isn't still around, although there have been a few comedians who made audiences wish it was. Nonetheless, those in the know are afraid to go down there alone. Basement stories range from dangerous objects falling to people tripping in places they've been hundreds of times. Visitors have also reported smelling strange odors and hearing faint screams. Neither of those are particularly unusual in modern Los Angeles, but it could be ghosts. These days, the sightings don't happen as frequently as they used to. In fact, they started diminishing right around the time cell phone cameras started popping up. Go figure. Nonetheless, the hauntings have attained contemporary mythical status. Even patrons of the Comedy Store have started to get in on the fun, with many telling their own stories of ghostly happenings around the venue. Whether those stories are real or just fiction aimed at keeping the folkloric side of the Comedy Store going is hard to know, but the scientific community is hard at work trying to figure it out. A few years ago, a professional ghost investigator actually went to the venue and conducted a search, subsequently detailed in a lengthy Reddit article. In it, the poster explains how they used scientific equipment to search for indications of extracorporeal life and claims they actually found said indications. The long-running reality show Ghost Adventures also did a thorough exploration of the location. Your mileage may vary when it comes to how seriously they take the task of investigating, but they certainly did show up with some cameras and film what, by a very strict technical definition, is a full episode of television. So, what to think of all this? Well, true believers hold that too many comedians, employees, and visitors have seen things over the years for nothing to be going on. They say the place has strange and unusual psychic reverberations. And while the comedians and the store itself might lean into the ghost stories for publicity, the employees and patrons don't have nearly as much motivation to lie. We'll never know for sure what happened in the bowels of the old Comedy Store, but what we can know is that, thanks to its humble stage and tireless employees, this building has brought more people happiness than almost any other place on Earth. Sorry, Disneyland, but it's true. And who knows? Maybe the Comedy Store truly is a link between this life and the next. Maybe the key to the great beyond is harbored within its four walls. Or maybe we've all been looking at this the wrong way. Maybe the link to the spiritual realm is laughter. And instead of putting our hopes and dreams into religion, we should all just focus on chuckling a bit more. Or it could be the ghosts. You be the judge. So what do you think? Is the Comedy Store actually haunted? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, as always, please like, comment, and share for more videos just like this from our weird history.